Dear students, we are studying the chapter The Making of Regional Cultures. And today we are going to discuss about part 2 with the topic Painting for Patrons, the Tradition of Miniatures. Paintings. The painters used to prepare or make the paintings for patrons, and there was a tradition of miniatures. Miniatures means small sized paintings. These were the small sized paintings generally done in watercolor on cloth or paper. It means miniatures were prepared on cloth or on paper. The earliest miniatures were on palm leaves or wood. Palm leaves, palm is a tree, and or wood. Some of the most beautiful of these found in western India were used to illustrate Jaina text. So it is found in Jaina text. The Mughal emperors Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan patronized highly skilled painters who primarily illustrated manuscripts containing historical accounts and poetry. So Mughal emperors protected them and they patronized highly skilled painters. These were generally painted in brilliant colors and portrayed court scenes. During the Mughal Empire, they used to make court scenes, scenes of battle or hunting and other aspects of social life. So on different issues, on different subjects, miniatures were prepared, paintings were made by the painters. They were often exchanged as gifts and were viewed only by an exclusive few, the emperor and his close associates. You can see here, this is the Akbar resting, the figure 7, Akbar resting during a hunt, Mughal miniature. This is the Mughal miniature. You can see in this image here, Mughal miniature, this one. With the decline of the Mughal Empire, many painters moved out to the courts of emerging regional states. In 1857, Mughal Empire was completely removed from India. So it means in the mid 19th century. These painters moved out to the courts of the emerging regional states. As a result, Mughal artistic tastes influenced the regional courts of the Deccan and Rajput courts. So this kind of painting became very common in these courts of Rajasthan. At the same time, they retained and developed their distinctive characteristics, means separate or specific features were developed. Portraits of rulers and court scenes came to be painted following the Mughal example. Besides, themes from mythology and poetry were depicted at centers such as Mewar, Jodhpur, Bundi, Kota, and Kishangarh. So these became the main centers. Another region that attracted miniature paintings was the Himalayan foothills. Himalayan foothills around the modern day state of Himachal Pradesh and other foothill states. By the late 17th century, this region had developed a bold and intense style of miniature painting called Basohli. Basohli was the intense style of miniature painting, small sized paintings, Basohli. The most popular text to be painted here was Bhanu Datta's Rasa Manjari. Rasa Manjari. It was prepared by Bhanu Datta. Nadir Shah's invasion and the conquest of Delhi in 1739 resulted in the migration of Mughal artists to the hills to escape an uncertainty of the plains. You know that Nadir Shah invaded Delhi in 1739. That affected the artists, painters, etc. And they escaped themselves and they hide themselves in the hills. Here you can see they found ready patrons, which led to the founding of the Kangra school of painting. Kangra school of painting. By the mid 18th century, the Kangra artist developed a style which bred a new spirit into miniature painting. So, Kangra artist developed a new style of miniatures or paintings. The source of inspiration was the Vaishnavite traditions, soft colors including cool blues and greens, and a lyrical treatment of themes distinguished Kangra painting. So it was very important during that period, Kangra paintings. Remember that ordinary women and men also painted. Where they used to paint? On pots, walls, floors, cloth, works of art that have occasionally survived, unlike the miniatures that were carefully preserved in palaces for centuries. You can see one more thing. Figure 9, Krishna Radha and her companion, Pahari miniature. This is Pahari miniature, Kangra. You can see in this image. Next one here. This one, Maharana Ram Singh II playing Rajput, playing Holi. This is a Rajput miniature, Kota in Rajasthan. You can see, identify the miniature easily. And one more thing we already have done, this one, Mughal miniature, we discussed about it. Now the next topic is a closer look Bengal. This is about Bengal, and here we'll study about the growth of a regional language. Which language? Probably Bengali language. This will be about Bengali language. We often tend to identify regions in terms of the language spoken by the people. For example, Bengal. Here we think that Bengali language is spoken there. However, what is interesting is that while Bengali is now recognized as a language derived from Sanskrit, early Sanskrit text, mid first millennium BC, suggest that the people of Bengal did not speak Sanskritic languages. How then did the new language emerge? We'll study about the story of this language, the growth of language. From the 4th, 3rd centuries BC, commercial ties began to develop between Bengal and Magadha. Magadha, it is now at present in Bihar. Southern Bihar was known as the name of Magadha. And commercial ties began to develop means between Bengal and Magadha. The people used to have the trade. Clear? So trade relations were there, which may have led to the growing influence of Sanskrit. So due to this, language emerged there. During the 4th century, the Gupta rulers established political control over North Bengal and began to settle Brahmanas in this area. Which rulers? Gupta rulers. Gupta rulers established political control over North Bengal and they started to settle Brahmanas in this area. In this way, the linguistic and cultural influence from mid-Ganga Valley became stronger. In the 7th century, the Chinese traveler Huan Sang observed that languages related to Sanskrit were in use all over Bengal. So, Sanskrit and its branches were used in Bengal according to the description by Huan Sang, a Chinese traveler. Chinese traveler, he came to India during the 7th century. From the 8th century, Bengal became the center of a regional kingdom under the Palas. Palas kings were there in Bengal at that time. In chapter 2, we studied about Palas. Between the 14th and 16th centuries, means 1300 to 1600, Bengal was ruled by sultans who were independent of the rulers in Delhi. In 1586, when Akbar conquered Bengal, Akbar attacked Bengal and he annexed Bengal in 1586. You have to remember. It formed the nucleus of Bengal Suba. Nucleus of Bengal Suba. while Persian was the language of administration. So it means Persian became the language of administration. This was the language of administration, and Bengali developed as a regional language. So both of the languages played very important role. Persian became the administrative language and Bengali became a regional language. In fact, by the 15th century, the Bengali group of dialects came to be united by a common literary language based on the spoken language of the western part of the region, now known as West Bengal. Now this state is known as West Bengal, and there this language emerged, Bengali group of dialects. Thus, although Bengali is derived from Sanskrit, it passed through several stages of evolution. You know that this language was developed from Sanskrit, but in various stages. Also, a wide range of non-Sanskrit words derived from a variety of sources, including tribal languages. So many words came from tribal languages. Many words have been taken from Persian. Many words came from European languages, have become part of modern Bengali. So modern Bengali consisted of different words from different languages. I hope that you are getting my point. We are talking about the development of Bengali language in West Bengal. Early Bengali literature may be divided into two categories. Which two categories? One, indebted to Sanskrit, means came from Sanskrit, and other, independent of it. The first includes translations of Sanskrit epics like Mangala Kavyas, literally auspicious poem dealing with local deities. This is a religious composition, and Bhakti literature such as the biographies of Chaitanya Deva. He was the leader of Vaishnava Bhakti movement. We studied in chapter 8 about this movement, Chaitanya Deva. He was the leader. So in this way, this was the first source of Bengali literature. The second includes Nath literature. Nath. We studied about yogis and nathas. So Nath literature such as the songs of Mainamati and Gopi Chandra. Stories concerning the worship of Dharma Thakur, who was the deity, and fairy tales, local stories, folk tales, and ballads. Mainamati, Gopi Chandra, and Dharma Thakur. The Naths were ascetic who engaged in a variety of yogic practices. This particular song, which was often enacted, described how Mainamati, a queen, she was a queen, encouraged her son Gopi Chandra. Gopi Chandra was the son of Mainamati, and she is encouraging him to adopt the path of asceticism in the face of a variety of obstacles. Right? Dharma Thakur is a popular regional deity, often worshipped in the form of a stone or a piece of wood. A stone or a piece of wood, Dharma Thakur. He is worshipped as stone or wood. This text, we have studied about this text. The text belonging to the first category are easier to date, as several manuscripts have been found indicating that they were composed between the late 15th and mid 18th centuries. Those belonging to the second category circulated orally and cannot be precisely dated. They were particularly popular in eastern Bengal, where the influence of Brahmanas was relatively weak. So in this way, we studied about the development of Bengali language, as we have discussed about that in this video. And finally, we can understand that the first category of Bengali language source, in which we have found so many manuscripts composed between the late 15th and mid 18th century. So this duration was there, in which many manuscripts were prepared. Those belonging to the second category, these sources circulated orally and cannot be precisely dated.